If you're looking for an awesome product at a great price, be sure to check out the link in the description. A Canadian courtroom drama has concluded, leaving a nation grappling with its findings and the enduring shadow of a toxic culture within a beloved national pastime. The high-profile sexual assault trial involving 5 members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team, Michael McLeod, Alex Formenton, Dylan Dubé, Carter Hart, and Cal Foote, ended with a verdict that has sparked outrage and disbelief among many. The 5 players, accused of sexual assault following an incident in a London, Ontario hotel room 7 years prior, were acquitted. The complainant, identified only as EM, alleged that while she had consensual sex with McLeod, she was subsequently subjected to non-consensual group sex with the other players. Her testimony detailed a night of escalating intimidation, fueled by alcohol and the presence of multiple men, some of whom she claimed were merely observing. EM stated she adopted a porn star persona to manage the situation, a tactic she felt necessary to navigate what she perceived as a dangerous environment. Crucially, she asserted that this persona did not equate to consent. The defense, however, presented a drastically different narrative. The players maintained EM was sexually aggressive and actively consented to all sexual activity. Adding to the complexity, McLeod presented video recordings of EM seemingly expressing consent. EM, however, testified that she did not recall the recordings being made and that McLeod had pressured her to make such statements. The trial unfolded over several grueling weeks in May, with EM enduring extensive cross-examination by 5 separate legal teams. Only one of the accused players testified. Justice Maria Carroccia's verdict, delivered last Thursday to a packed courtroom, declared EM's testimony not credible nor reliable. The judge cited inconsistencies, such as a discrepancy between EM's stated weight and documented records. The judge interpreted this minor discrepancy as a deliberate falsehood, highlighting a pattern she perceived in EM's account. The judge also questioned the extent of EM's intoxication, citing the lack of visible signs of impairment in videos, and suggested EM initiated physical contact with McLeod at a bar prior to the hotel incident. This interpretation painted a picture of an individual who, in the judge's view, was fully consenting and intentionally misleading the court. This conclusion, however, sparked immediate and widespread criticism. Daphne Gilbert, a criminal law professor at the University of Ottawa, expressed deep disappointment with the decision, arguing that the judge seemed to place the burden of proof disproportionately on the complainant. Gilbert asserted that the judge focused solely on perceived flaws in EM's testimony, failing to adequately address the actions of the accused. This, Gilbert argued, perpetuated harmful stereotypes and undermined efforts to combat sexual violence. The verdict is seen by many as a significant setback in the ongoing struggle for justice and accountability in cases of sexual assault. The case, which initially seemed poised to expose and challenge the deeply entrenched culture within Canadian hockey, instead highlights the significant hurdles faced by survivors seeking justice within powerful institutions. The saga began in 2018, but the initial police investigation was dropped in 2019 after reviewing video evidence that cast doubt on the extent of EM's intoxication. EM subsequently filed a lawsuit against Hockey Canada in 2022, resulting in an undisclosed settlement. The subsequent leak of this settlement ignited a public outcry, prompting police to reopen the investigation and lay charges in early 2024. This sequence of events, however, inadvertently unveiled the existence of a Hockey Canada fund used to settle sexual assault claims against players, a revelation that shocked the nation and exposed a systemic issue of cover-ups and abuse. Sponsors abandoned Hockey Canada, and parliamentary investigations were launched, prompting significant reforms, including mandatory training on sexual violence and consent. The players involved were initially suspended from the NHL, though many have since found themselves playing in the Continental Hockey League in Russia. Now, with the trial concluded, the NHL is grappling with the question of readmission. While acknowledging the acquittal and the non-criminal nature of the allegations, the NHL has stated that the players' behavior was unacceptable and is currently conducting an analysis to determine next steps. Many anticipate the players' eventual reinstatement. Sponsors, quietly and swiftly, have re-engaged with Hockey Canada. This relatively swift return to the status quo ante highlights a resilience in the face of intense scrutiny. The contrast between the public outcry in 2022 and the relative calm following the verdict is stark. Taylor McKee, an assistant professor at Brock University specializing in hockey and masculinity, argues that true cultural change requires a far more forceful response from Hockey Canada, advocating for a zero-tolerance policy that holds entire teams accountable for the actions of individual members. He contends that a culture of secrecy and blurred boundaries requires a radical shift in approach. However, the post-verdict celebrations outside the courthouse, alongside the Hockey Players Union's advocacy for their return to the NHL, suggest that the story's impact might fade more quickly than many had hoped. The narrative, initially poised to shake the foundations of Canadian hockey, may instead be relegated to the annals of a contentious, but ultimately inconclusive, chapter in the sport's history.